And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy. That show where we give you, our straight-up gameplay and our thoughts and first impressions on the latest games releasing. Well, today we're talking about Life is Strange 2, the first episode. This series that had a surprising amount of success is back with this completely new adventure. And by that, I mean it's like a completely standalone new tale with new characters, and it feels pretty fresh. It's hard not to talk about the game that much without spoiling, but I'll try to give you the gist of the experience, how it plays, and basically what you're getting. The story follows the two Diaz brothers. There's older brother Sean and younger brother Daniel. They're living in Seattle until their life gets turned completely upside down and they're forced to set out on the road in like a brotherly road trip adventure, even though it's not really all fun and games. But that's all I can really say about that. And I will say right off the bat, the fact that this game isn't centered around one particular place makes it immediately feel vastly different than the original Life is Strange. I'll say it feels larger and more ambitious. Being on the road just makes sense for stories like these because you're always going to be seeing new places and meeting new characters, and so far, at least in this first episode, it really makes things consistently interesting and pretty well paced. I like this change in setting. My complaint is that at first it feels too much like the original game, but thankfully once things kick off, it's all good. At first, it's a bit rough, like more teenagers talking to other teenagers, and it feels almost, but still not quite. Like, dialogue is awkward and cringy at points, and it might not bother everyone, but it drove me a little crazy. However, once the story really narrows in and focuses on the brother dynamic of Sean and Daniel, it gets really good. The voice acting and writing between the two was pretty enjoyable for me. Daniel in particular does a really good job of coming across as a playful, goofy kid who likes to make stuff and use his imagination, but he can also be confused, sad, and vulnerable in really convincing ways. Not only that, but he's just a little kid tag-along character that isn't totally annoying, which is really appreciated. I chalked that up as a win. He actually made me laugh a couple times. Now, mechanically, it plays pretty similar to other Life is Strange stuff. You walk around, you look at things, you read things, you pick things up, and you talk to people. Now, instead of photography, this time around, there's a sketchbook mechanic where Sean can look at stuff, kind of like soak it in, and sketch it on a page. All you're really doing is wiggling the analog stick, but it's still involved just enough to be mildly interesting, I guess. From the pause menu, too, you access your sketchbook, which is actually filled with some really cool references and stuff, as is the rest of the game, really. I won't spoil any, but they feel fairly relevant and are actually kind of nice. But that pause menu also acts as your backpack for your stuff, and you can customize your pack with patches and keychains and stuff you come across on your adventure. Your bag also has a smartphone, which does a lot of interesting little optional bits of dialogue you can see if you want to go deeper into the game. I really appreciated the exchanges between characters that are left in the phone for you to kind of just discover. And story-wise, it is just the first episode, but I like where it's going. It's accomplished its mission, really. I'm into the two brothers, and I'm looking forward to seeing where their adventure goes next. There are a few side characters that are kind of interesting, but really the main focus is the bros, and they're on track to nail it. The story does get slightly political at times, and I think there are a few moments that are gonna piss some people off that aren't equipped to handle or tolerate stuff like this in games. My perspective, it's fine. It's a story-based game. It's actually really, really tame, too. Sometimes awkwardly trying to be a little too on the nose, but ultimately tame. It does not at all get in the way of the actual story being told. Now, of course, it all comes down to the dialogue and the choices and stuff. That's what these games are really all about. And since it's the first episode, you don't get to see too many of your decisions come back to haunt you yet, but what you do get is the sense that your younger brother is always watching, and how you deal with him and how you handle events in the world in front of him ultimately seem like they're gonna have an impact on his character. Kids his age are really malleable and hyper-observant, so I'm really hoping to see the rest of the game cash that check, you know? What I do really like is that because there are no time manipulation powers or anything this time around, lots of choices and general story moments just feel a bit more for real, you know? Like, choices are important here. But again, since it's the first episode, I just hope the game and the story cashes the checks they're writing. Also, it's worth mentioning graphically, the game has seen quite an improvement. Like, character models look somewhat better, and I really like what they've done with like the color palette and texturing this time around. Things feel a bit more natural, and it's just less glitchy and buggy overall. Also, the environmental variety really helps. Like, you get a bunch of really nice, pretty sweet views, and you can tell the developers really took their time designing this stuff. Especially when you're walking in the woods, it almost all feels like a next-gen Life is Strange game, if that makes sense. Everything feels bigger and more detailed. And I think you could say that about the whole thing. Overall, I'm really curious to see where this goes. I was okay with the first game, maybe a little bit lukewarm at times, but this one just has me a bit more intrigued thanks to the brother dynamic and decisions and the road trip setting. Now, I think if you're into these types of story-based games, you should definitely consider it. It's probably already on your radar, so at least I can confirm that, it seems like it's going in the right place. But that's a before you buy. You know how it works by now. I give you some pros, some cons, some personal opinion. So now I definitely want to hear yours down in the comments. Have you jumped into this first episode? Did you play the first Life is Strange? Try to avoid spoilers, but what was your favorite moment in this first episode? Because there was a surprising amount of good stuff. Let's talk about anything Life is Strange 2 down in the comments. I'll be down there talking to you guys as much as possible, but if you got anything else for me, be sure to hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino. And if you enjoyed this video or learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps us out, and we really appreciate it. But if you're new, you should consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell because we put out new videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Something after all that shit. I've looked enough. Time to draw now.